Joshua Hammond.
MJ,
Thank you for doing this.
for sure.
Well, I've been excited to sit down with you and talk about pianos.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about Waco Pianos, how we got started, and how did we get here?
How did we get here?
Actually, what is Waco Pianos?
What is Waco Pianos? Waco Pianos is it's a business to accommodate me as a piano technician. Where is it going? We're just about a year old. I've been tuning and working on pianos off and on for the past 16, 17 years.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 18. But and finally a year ago, I decided, let's put a face to this business. I'm a tuner 18 years later, so and it always helps to have someone, a mentor who helps prod you along. So what is Waco Pianos? Waco Pianos is a business that services the Waco area. And my mission is to take away, if you're a pianist, your frustration of playing the piano, and specifically as it relates to the piano. And yeah, that's in a nutshell, that's what it is.
That's what it is.
We could go further, but you have to remember I'm a technician.
There's probably not a whole lot of pianists in Waco, but there's a lot of people that play the piano, yeah?
There are a lot of people that play the piano. I don't know how many. If you have that number, I'd love to know.
Well, even more people have a piano than know
Yes.
know how to play the piano.
Yes, no, that's true. And then the good thing about that is you can always learn. So,
Yeah. So you made this official because is it just 1 year?
it's almost been a year since I've had my Google business page.
Okay,
So-
well, that's a milestone.
And so that, I think, being, taking the plunge for the longest time, it was like friends and family in the first probably 5 years.
Yeah.
Got a mentor, started working, but as life has a way of helping you grow
Forcing-
up,
Right.
if you will. Piano tuning, and it's a very nice. Well, that's a little bit more about myself, my perspective of why piano tuning. That's a different question, but we're here in the Waco area. I've been in Waco since 2010, so I don't have any plans of going anywhere unless the Lord calls me to another place. But right now, this is where we are, and that's what I tell people. I'm like, I'll let you know. I know plenty of good people, but I'm not planning on moving.
You want to be their piano tuner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I'm planted. That's where I'm gonna serve people. And I think one thing. I'm primarily an artist and a technician. Second, and one of the things I believe in is it's like providing good service. When I come to your house, talk to you on the phone, I'll have my initial ideas about what you may need.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very interested in, where is your level of piano playing right now? And what level of service would best serve you? And so I'm I don't know if it sounds cliche to say more than a piano technician service or whatever, but I do believe and hold fast to trying to help people understand what I'm giving them, walk them along so that they're like, okay, wow, this is good.
Yeah.
On top of doing a good job. But
You do sit squarely at that intersection of technology and creative arts.
yes.
As long as I've known you, you've sat right in the middle of that.
Yeah, no, and it's when you get into more of the mechanics, it's really, you're like, wow, this is like, if you've seen some old machinery, like old calculators and like the gears and clockwork, and also like pianos are very much like that.
Yeah.
And and even just the last handful of years, as I've learned more about regulation and voicing, like, oh, you have to be like a chemist, like dialing in your mixtures of alcohol and water to like make different sounds come out of the piano. And people have all their opinions about how you.
Like, really? You're using alcohol and water on the piano? Really?
Now, not all the time, not in a typical service, but a very quick story. There was a piano I was at a handful of months ago. I start playing it and I'm like, oh, this is bad. Like, I thought I was going to be tuning this piano, but all the keys were sticking. And I opened the lid up, and you can push the soft pedal on an upright piano. This was a little upright piano, and it will push all the hammers forward so that they don't go as far.
Definite dull that sound.
And whenever you push the rail forward, that would move all the hammers together. They would all just kind of creep back.
Interesting.
And so, anyways, how did it get that way? There's a number of reasons why. Most probable is just years of humidity. And talking with the client, they're like, yeah, we, go away in the summer. And so I'm like, okay, that means AC's off in the summer. So the little bushings that are made out of felt swell and just kind of freeze up over time. So this one solution
is this what's on the hammer?
This kind of material. This is a mute, but basically you have for the hinge of the hammer where it swings, you have a little metal pin that has a little felt bushing around it. And that bushing had swelled. And so a quicker solution is you get an alcohol water mixture. You just put a little bit on each one of them, and first it seizes up, and then after a day, it will essentially iron them.
Interesting.
So it's like little solutions like that. I'm like, wow, this is really kind of like, I don't know if you call that chemistry or
no. Wow.
But I mean, that's just fun little stories, little knickknacks. But
yeah. So I've known Joshua for a long time. I want to talk about it a little bit because I met Joshua in Thailand, of all places.
Yeah, and that's true.
And you were doing media stuff, and we were doing media overseas, and you came and you stayed with us, and you built a what do they call it? A crane.
Like a little camera jib crane.
You built a camera jib crane out of bamboo.
Yeah.
Because in Indonesia, we built everything out of bamboo. And so Joshua did you go up to I remember you went up to the mountains, you got all these amazing shots. You made this promo video for my media company.
Yeah, I remember running around with people, and we were on the little moped. I had my camera on the tripod, and I'm like, I hope I don't like joust anyone today.
Right.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
That was crazy. But yeah, from that very beginning time, you came and you stayed with us a month, and it was just like, man, this guy's good at tech and he's good at the creative, and this is the intersect, getting people's pianos working.
Yeah, and I was asking myself earlier this morning, like, why do I stay in piano technology? I think if I were selfish for a moment and just to say if it was just for me, I love different sounds. And I've heard a lot of sounds I don't like. So
you got little kids. There's a lot of sounds.
Yeah, but and even with that, but it's just a fascinating thing to think about. You can play a piece on an instrument or sing, and you can move people to tears. You can provide the atmosphere for someone to. And I've been a part of being able to partake or take part in playing somewhere people are like, oh, that's the first time I've been able to like grieve for such and such thing in like yeing, and I'm like, really? Like
you're
just playing a song, and that the thing I'm thinking of is like maybe 15 years ago, because I haven't played as much. But I mean, for myself, that's where I go. Instead of journaling, oftentimes I'll go to the piano. And so when I say it's like removing frustration, it's like if there are other people out there like me who are like, you know what? The world's a mess. I don't know what to make of my life right now.
Yeah.
I need a moment of peace. Like going to the piano, just playing a couple simple chords and worshiping for me is that realigns me. But if my piano, like this one, needs to be tuned, there's a note in here. Maybe that sounds a little out of tune right there. But you hit those sour notes and you're like, I can't. You think about it. It's like having a pebble in your shoe. And I'm like, I don't want pebbles in my shoe.
So, okay, this is the metaphor still. Okay.
Yeah, we're in the metaphor. But so why I stay in piano tuning is partially personal.
You're getting pebbles out of shoes.
Yeah, I'm getting pebbles out of my shoes, essentially.
Well, out of their shoes. It's in their house. They're playing. They're feeling that pebble. And they're like,
right.
It's just not quite right. I just want it to sound like it used to sound.
Yeah, no, and if that's something that I can give to other people as well, as I make a living, then, I mean, I'm satisfied with that.
Yeah. But, well, it's a great little business. I love seeing you doing this, and you're going into people's homes, you're getting to know people, and you're such an extrovert. You love people well, and, just getting to enjoy people that you meet too.
Right. Yeah, no, that's good. And my wife, Vanessa, she always... we laugh about when we first got married, I was doing more piano tuning and work that was heavier for me. So I'm alone all day. I was working in a shop at the time, and she's working as an intake officer in a counseling place in town. So she's with people all day. She's the introvert. I'm the extrovert.
Yeah.
So
you come home and you're.
I'm like, let's go out, let's party, let's stay out till 11 at night. She's like, what?
She's peopled out.
Peopled out. Yeah.
I totally get that.
But I'm not staying up till 11 on purpose anymore. But anyways, that's a different topic.
Yeah. Wow.
But
so, I was just in there talking to Vanessa, and you got a few pianos in here.
it's true. It always starts with one.
It starts with one, and then they multiply. They had piano babies.
Yeah. So
what are you doing why do you have a bunch of pianos in your living room?
Yeah, no, I mean, and you only see the two right here. There's one right there. Another there. And then two more in another room over there. So there's 6 total. That's 6 right there.
So you're going to people's houses to repair pianos.
That's correct.
To tune them.
Right.
And whatever else they need to do. You can do it all.
Yeah, and I like to frame it like it's a piano service appointment because I basically say a 2-hour piano service appointment. Tuning is the thing that we all think about. But if something's broken, we have to fix that before we can tune it. And then there's other things you can do after tuning that, it's like tuning's the oil change, but there's a lot more you can do to your vehicle other than just, changing the oil. You probably should too. You're not going to crash with your piano. You're going to feel it in other ways.
Yeah, it was the pebble in the shoe. It just doesn't sound quite right.
Right. And so, but with you were asking about the pianos, like, why do I have 6 pianos? Yeah. Do I know I have 6 pianos?
And where do you get 6 pianos from? How do they show up at your door? I mean,
yeah, no. So I learned piano tuning from a man in town. He's 90 now, James Geiger.
Yes,
he's
the OG of piano tuning.
Yes, he is. He's very well known, and I wish I could give a little. This is who he is, and all the different things he's done. He'd have to be here to really do that. But,
color in his career so far.
Yes, but he's been a tuner for 65, 70 years.
That's crazy.
And so he's still going. And even like the last piano I moved with him,
he's 90, 89, and he's moving pianos.
He's doing his best to not move pianos. I'll say that.
But I remember you telling me you moved a piano with him once, and your natural sense would have been to muscle this thing through. And he was like, nope. And just like, almost like the physics of balance and saying, nope, this, and this.
Yeah.
But is he actually getting his hands on the piano as you're moving stuff?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like he's
That's
slowly
crazy.
tapering off, and it's not something that he advertises that he does that anymore, but just keeping up with people. But and not like your huge concert grand pianos, like something that's maybe this size, and this is a 5-foot piano, so we don't, maybe a little bit more. If he watches this, he'll be like, oh no, I'll go move a 7-foot one. Maybe.
Well, he needs the young guys like you doing that stuff, and he just points and says, do this, do that.
Yeah. But so I forget the question now. Jim Geiger, that's where I learned, but I don't remember where I was going.
Well, we originally talked about all these pianos in here.
So he had a very typical classroom piano he was redoing for Baylor's theater department. It's a Baldwin 243 is the model of the piano. And I saw one on Marketplace for free. And I thought, oh, well, I'll get this so I can just kind of mirror verbatim what he's doing. With the goal being, if I can recondition old pianos that have good bones, there's value in that. There's a lot of people who have a piano and they're like, I don't want to spend $5,000 to $7,000 entry point on a brand new piano.
You're right.
And so I'm like, there's a market that's between that $500 and maybe top end $5,000 range where, I'm aiming to provide value. Yeah. Now I got one piano, then I got another piano because like, oh, these are pianos I'm picking up basically for free. And I just watch, Marketplace like many of us probably do. And, slowly then we had a couple friends who, we sold 2 pianos and I thought, oh, this might be a good thing, like piano flipping. And then all of a sudden 6 pianos happened. What started out as this is going to help me as a technician, I'm like, oh, well, maybe this is actually going into sales a little bit too. Yeah. I guess I shouldn't say that. I'm learning more about sales, in that aspect, but primarily my focus is on just figuring out what for this piano, it's a 1926 Mason and Hamlin.
Made in 1926.
Yes.
Wow.
And so it has its issues, but when you play it,
Beautiful.
there's some charm to it. So it's like I pick up instruments that have a little bit of charm, mostly in tone and like the sound character. This one right here that's off camera, it looks nice. And I'm like, I'm sure there's someone out there that would just like a piano that looks nice and is a good enough quality instrument. So
that's, I think most people want that piano. That looks nice and it's good enough to play whenever they play it, once or twice a year, maybe at Christmas or something.
Or when families are coming around. So I'm, when it comes to that, I mean, I'm not you, so I don't know exactly what you want. I know what I want, and I'm learning what you want. You can tell me.
Leave in the comments, what kind of piano do you want?
Yeah, what's most important? Because, when I walk people through, repairs, I'm like, okay, there's different aspects of value. It's like, what is it worth to you? Like sentimental value, family history, like all of that. Then there's the actual, well, how good does the piano sound? And like people generally across the board will recognize that as a good sound, even if there's some preference difference. But then also, what's the market value? And more often than not, when someone calls me and they send pictures, what do you think my piano's worth? The sad truth is it's probably not worth much. And that's why you see a ton of free pianos on Marketplace. These are like, imagine you're going, it's unfortunately, it's not even like a used car lot. It's probably less than that. It's like, it's a neglected car lot of things that could get running.
If they had the right person with the right expertise, which is not many piano tuners out there. Not many people servicing pianos like you are out there.
I mean, there's a handful in the area, and I would love to know more of this, but you have tuners who are, their main thing is they're just going to tune the piano, do pretty simple repairs and so forth. Right. Then you have a technician who, and can I rebuild a complete piano at this stage in my career? No. I mean, I could facilitate that. I have a good enough understanding, but I wouldn't go out and say, I'm going to rebuild your piano right now.
Start to finish.
I would say, here's what I'm going to do. Here's how it could be outsourced and kind of be somewhat of a middleman. And that's not a service that I personally offer.
But you're at the top tier of this thing. I mean, you're not James Geiger, but
no. You're
learning how to do, what's it called? Voicing?
The voicing and regulation. And we probably can't see on camera if I were to do this, but I guess we can just try for a second. Throwing one at you here. You can just pull this whole the keyboard out. You don't want to break your hammers when you pull it out, though. They pop up. But then there's all the hammers right there. Maybe you can see some of these on the top, but
this is freestanding here. This is just a board.
Yeah, it's just a board. Like the whole action, or like the assembly that has all the keys, the hammers. And like, you probably won't see this on camera, but these hammers, like, they really need to be filed. And so like, from changing out the hammers, which drastically affects the tone, to just regulating, adjusting every little piece, in one key. And you want to do that to where everything is similar. It's within spec. I'm away from this.
Relative to itself, yeah.
Right, and there's, once again, there's discrepancies on what's spec, and different manufacturers have different parameters that you're aiming for, but that it gets really technical. But yeah, essentially you're gonna have, when you regulate the action, you're gonna have the best performance out of the piano. It's gonna be able to play really soft and really loud. With the hammers, when you voice them, if you're in a room like this, you might have to, people say you have to voice a piano down because you usually don't want a super, super bright sound in a home. Whereas in a concert hall, you need more of that brightness to project out. It really depends on the space. It's like adjusting the EQ. When you're tuning a speaker system, it's different for your headphones and for your, not that most of us think about that too much necessarily. Yeah. And now you can see I'm just falling off the edge of technical, which is why I say.
Blanton always prefaces like, "What's your interest level?" A mutual friend of ours is very technical, and he'll ask, "What is your interest level?" Before I answer your question, because I'll answer it differently.
But you know, at the end of the day, like, what's the most important thing is
Yeah.
it's like, does the piano frustrate you when you play it?
Yeah.
And you can become accustomed to those frustrations and not, you know, in the same way, it's like as we all age, it's like a back starts aching, your feet start cramping, like those different things, or maybe it's harder to get up in the morning because of different health reasons. It's like we grow accustomed to these things. But if, you know, it took a day or two to maybe not get that all back, but just get it back 80%, 70%.
Yeah.
You know,
you're talking about human bodies. Anyone would do that. It'd be like a no-brainer.
And you know, in the same way with you know the piano, it's like I'll sell a half-day service to people, and that's not gonna, I wouldn't say 70-80%, but it's gonna be enough of a lift that people are like, wow, this sounds so much different.
Yeah.
And you know, we all need a little bit of inspiration sometimes, you know, to get back into things. And of course, you know, I also like to tell people, remind them, like, if you give a mouse a cookie, he's gonna ask for a glass of milk. And I mean, in the case of a piano, a tuning's a cookie, you know. It's going to ask for a little bit more, maybe.
The piano is going to ask for a little bit more.
Yeah, potentially.
That's what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm not trying to upsell everyone.
Well, I love what you're saying, because this is a different type of piano than this. You know, this is what all my family and my grandmother had a piano almost exactly like this.
Yeah.
We have my mom's old piano in our room, and you tuned that, which thank you so much. That was great. They came home and they got that service from you. I'm like, man, my wife loves to play piano, and she's awesome. And our kids were playing, and it's just, and you fixed the key. One of these keys had popped off, and it's a super old piano.
Yeah.
You know, my favorite piano that we've ever had, you know what I'm going to say?
I don't yet.
So in Indonesia, we had a piano from 1888.
Okay.
That James Mark Gully had given to my friend Eric Evans when he moved overseas. And they had it shipped over, and then Eric left, and we inherited that piano. Do you remember it?
Yeah, I vaguely remember.
It was from it was from United Methodist, or here in Waco. It was like one of their pianos, and he had gotten it from his mom, or I forget how anyhow.
Yeah.
It wound up in my room in Indonesia, and it was so cool. And it looked really beat up, and I loved it. Like we loved the look of it, like the old Coldplay piano that they'd bring out on you know. So I didn't want a fancy one. We wanted that old beat up thing.
Yeah, no,
and it sounded great.
And you know, it's like, you know, because I tell people, I don't know if there's a graph you could show, but you know, it's like when you're pursuing excellence, it's like, where's the happy place, or where's maybe your happy place, you know, of excellence. It's like, if you don't want to spend, because you can spend a couple $100,000 on a piano on like the top end.
A couple $100,000.
Yeah, like if you get a concert instrument, you're gonna be between that $70,000 to $150,000 range.
Oh my gosh!
And I could be off on my pricing, because that's not the market that I deal in at this point in my career. But what I've found is, as I've been able to tune a lot of different instruments, it's like, oh, I'm like, this instrument wants to be played this way. This instrument sounds more jazzy. And I'm like, or soulful, or, you know, just thinking of these different terms. And so I think some of the beauty is, it's like, well, you can't, my question as a technician is, how close could you say, this is my standard, get any piano to that standard? And I'm sure that the honest answer to that is, no piano is going to ever be able to be exactly like that, for a lot of different reasons. Even if you were to get the exact
like two voices, they just come out the same.
Each piano will have its voice, because you have manufacturing things change over time.
Yeah.
You might get someone to put new hammers on your piano, which is going to change the tone. But then maybe manufacturing decides to do things a little bit different 10 years later. Or maybe after 40 years of setting hammers, they have a specific tone, you know, and getting technical once again. But
hold on. Okay, technical difficulties. Sorry about that. So what does it look like when someone calls you up and they want to, what does it look like when you come? Like, how does the process look like? Actually, just start from, you prefer to be called? You have your number on your website there, I saw.
Yeah, no, I do have my number. You know, it depends. If you know, you just want to try us out, you know, you can go ahead and make a schedule or put yourself in on the schedule. I have an auto scheduler
On the website?
on
you
the
mean?
website. So if
they
you go to
go to-
wacopianos.com, you can see at the very bottom that there's a calendar and you can pick a time slot.
Congratulations on being number one in Google, by the way.
Oh, well, thanks.
That's awesome.
It's only 20 reviews. I don't
It's
know
so
how that
awesome.
happened,
I thought that was just awesome. But
Yeah.
okay, so they see you on Google. They go to your website, or they and they see your number there.
Right.
If they know they want an appointment, they just schedule it right there.
Yeah, and I'm gonna still, if someone does that, I'm gonna at least reach out by text. More than likely, call. Just to say, hey, tell me a little bit more.
A lot of us still like the calling.
Yeah, because and it's interesting. It's like I'm working in pianos, and we live in the day where AI is getting more. There's more AI tools, which, without getting into that conversation, AI is definitely not one thing. It's not personal, and I want to have an element of whatever you'd say, just that friendliness and that personability, like in my business, and so what does that mean? I'll use certain tools like a scheduler, or you can call. And then, if you scheduled and I call you back, like, hey, MJ, how are you doing? Like, I saw you scheduled for a piano tuning service. Can you tell me a little bit more? Like, what are you looking for? And I will leave the question a little open at first.
So 80% of customers answer that question how? What are you looking for?
Like, what are you looking for?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
how do most of your customers answer that?
Oh, I mean, it's different for what people need, but a lot more recently have been people who have not tuned to their piano in quite some time.
Okay.
Meaning 3+ years, 3 to 20 years. Maybe I've had a couple that have been more like 30
Isn't
years.
that kind of normal? I mean, I know that shouldn't be normal necessarily, but
and it's understandable because it's like, even for me, it's like, I'll say, it's been 15 years since I, played 2, 3, 4 hours a day at piano, because that's what I was, doing in high school. And, if you're not getting paid to do it, it's really hard to do that.
Yeah.
And also then, things fall by the wayside, and there's other things in life that come, and probably, having babies and taking care of those more than your piano's important.
It's important to take care of those little guys.
But yeah, so someone calls, I figure out what's important to that person, and then I'll give my little spiel of like, well, here's what I usually do, and then we'll kind of go back and forth as quickly as I can, because I tend to
because you're trying to nail what do they want.
Yeah.
They're not a Baylor grad piano student wanting to nail it. They're
right.
Where are they at?
Yeah, no,
they're not Sean Cheek.
And so, like I like to ask people, sometimes this is on the phone. Sometimes people are like, I'm just ready to schedule you. We've been looking for you. I'm like, great. I was like, now, and I'll just tell them, hey, here's my pricing. We'll get you on the calendar. I'll text or call the day before and also an hour before our appointment just to make sure we're on the same page. I have had it where the GPS sent me to a different city, and that's not enjoyable, because then that means you're an hour late to an appointment, and you're like, okay, well, technology sometimes fails on us. But at some point in that process, the questions of like, well, how do you play the piano? And I've had everything from, I don't really play, or we're having someone for a party over, and I just like it there. Want something that's in order. And then someone who's like, yeah, I play daily, or like, this is part of my profession. I'm like, okay, the services will both be similar, but also vastly different for those people of what I would suggest they do. You had another part of your question. That's just kind of...
No, that's it. You're answering it. So you show up, and generally, what would people expect to pay if they're just wanting a tune up, just wanting to get it kind of roughly tuned up?
Yeah, well, if I don't know anything about a piano, what I'll tell people is it's like, my typical tuning rate, and this is tax included, is $180.
Okay.
But so looking between $180, and if it's a neglected instrument, up to $400. I don't like to charge more than $400 on a neglected instrument before I've had a chance to tune it to make sure that other structural things are together. Because, you can pick so many pianos up for free. You can definitely get a decent instrument for a couple $1,000s online. I think you're really, just on that scale of like instrument quality, you can buy a new piano for that $5,000 to $7,000 range.
Okay.
That's decent. but there's still things that it could use. Like, you have to break things in, so to speak. So, with that, like if your instrument doesn't have any market value, how much money do you want to put into it? And I want to be conscious of that.
Yeah, sure.
And most of the values in people playing. But so, back to the question, that $180 to $400 range is generally what people are going to be looking at.
So when you sit down at a piano, how long does it take? So you showed up for an appointment. How long does it take for you to assess and to be able to talk to your customer like, hey, this is probably going to need X, Y, and Z?
Right. Yeah. So some things actually, I can give you a, air quotes here, general idea over the phone, especially if you like send me a picture or also like a little audio recording of the piano playing, because I can measure the pitch. Like you just record on your phone. You're like, there's a, just across the board, like all of one note. That'll give me a little bit of an idea. And if you remember how long it's been since it's been tuned. For other things, I would say, 50, 60% of the things within 5 to 10 minutes, I'm going to be able to be like, oh, okay, this is, and once again, like a very kind of general overview, because most of these pianos are pianos that we're not going to be rebuilding or even reconditioning.
Yeah.
It's more of like, we're going to get back into the race and we're going to make this better than it was and on a path of betterment over, 6 month or year apart appointments. So yeah, 10 to 20 minutes, I'd say, like if I came here, I'd be like, okay, I can see there's a broken key, play on the piano. You just play through the piano. Does it feel okay?
Yeah.
If all of the hammers are like stuck, like I mentioned earlier, it's like, okay, now, and in that particular case, because that's the first time I had encountered that, then I may call up someone and say, hey, I have an issue I haven't encountered before.
Mr. Geiger.
Yeah, Mr. Geiger, or the techs at Baylor, and so, in some cases, because I don't know everything, and I'll let you know, hey, I don't know what to do with this, so give me a moment to make a few calls, and then I'll either refer out to another technician in the area or figure out how to do that.
Cool.
Veered off again, but
no. So you're tuning, and that's how it goes.
Yeah,
you're in there. You're
you
usually
said time wise. So
couple hours, 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, 2 hours. I
Is
sell
your
it.
standard appointment 2 hours?
My standard appointment's 2 hours.
So that would be kind of like the 180. The 180.
Yeah, the
thing.
180. And so with that, right now, like this could change, in the future, as I get faster at my tunings. But here's what would happen. If you said, I haven't tuned my piano in 5 years, chances are it's going to need a pitch raise, meaning the whole piano's pitch has dropped. I guess I should be going this way so you guys can see the piano's over here. But basically tuning it twice. And you can do that in one sitting.
You have to tune it twice.
Yeah.
Because
when you're adding the pressure across it, the soundboard kind of contracts and then everything loosens up again. So it drops in pitch. If you've ever seen someone change strings on a guitar, you usually hear them complain about, I have to tune it again. It's just, these are new strings. In the case of old strings, it's like you still have a lot of pressure on a soundboard that kind of goes down a little bit more. And so you really, to keep a piano in tune, like on a standard, you should get 2 tunings a year. But
to keep it in top form.
And
you were thinking about offering some sort of a discount for that, for people that do that more regularly.
And that could look a couple of ways. It could be like if you're just interested in tuning, you just have a discounted rate for the twice a year tuner or getting my piano tuned. Another thing that I've told people is if there's a lot that their piano needs, if I'm like, I could spend 2 or 3 days, on this piano, which to be honest is most pianos out there that are over 20 years old. Because
there's always something else you could do to it if you want to. And the question is, how much do you want to put into your piano?
Right. Yeah. And, and then by that point, it's like if you can buy a new piano for, $5,000 to $7,000, but you're going to have a, $3,000 bill to like bring a piano up to par. Which I think would be, if you had a good instrument, so long as the market value aligned with the investment you're putting in it, that would probably be a good.
See, I think we're way too deep on it because you are having known you for a while, your ear is so fine.
Yeah.
And like Sean Cheek, who's a good friend that we spend a lot of like y'all hear so much. I think 95% of the market
Yeah.
just wants it to be in tune to when we sing Christmas carols. This is my family. We sing it twice a year. My kids used to play regularly, you know.
Right.
But
yeah, no, I mean, and that's why I ask, how do you play this piano?
Yeah.
Because if it's what you're describing, it's like, there's no need for that.
Yeah,
People will disagree, but we only have a limited amount of resources.
Right.
And if spending $200 to $400 on your piano to get it like, wow, this is so much better than it's been, then great, do that. Get it tuned yearly. Some pianos you could technically go, a couple years. They're all a little bit different. And I, over Father's Day, was visiting my father, and I don't remember how long ago I tuned his piano, but maybe like 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And I just checked its pitch for fun, and I was like, it's almost right on pitch.
Really?
Now, that's not saying you shouldn't get your piano tuned, but it's like just as your house over the seasons, the doors get jammed or things contract and expand, pianos do the same thing. So things are like getting out in other ways, all kind of misaligned. But back to the simplicity, it's, what's frustrating you about the instrument? If you have a child who's learning and you have this inkling of, I think they're going to really like music, why aren't they playing? Is it because the instrument has issues? And if that is the case, and that's the biggest thing. I'm like, if an instrument is the thing that is keeping a child from learning, that should be addressed. Even if it's not a acoustic piano, get a digital piano at that point. If that's the route that serves your family better. But anyways.
Are you also doing piano lessons? I don't want to advertise anything you don't want to put on here.
So it's funny because I had a friend who, they were moving out of state. They had, I don't remember how many, a few families that were taking in-home lessons. So yeah, I did start doing serving 2 families currently with in-home lessons. So
we can cut this if you want to.
Yeah, I'm open to it. And that's more of, candidly, it's like, okay, where is the Lord leading me? I enjoy teaching lessons.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's many more people that have this specific musical journey I've had, but the more I teach, the more I realize it's like, I'm a combination. Even though I'm not a jazz musician, the philosophy of a jazz musician is much more listen to the music, transcribe it, and you look like into your soul, like, what am I making and how am I playing? And gathering these. And this is very general. And what I've experienced more so from the classical side of music is it's really great. Like, you're running marathons, you're figuring all this stuff out, and it's really good stuff. You don't have to think about what you're going to do. You just have to do it. But you're listening to the other voices. And so they exercise 2 very different muscles. One's like looking in, the other's like following instructions and learning how to, even perform in different, and you need both. But so anyways, yeah, my teaching style is somewhere in between there.
Okay. Yeah.
Do I enjoy teaching music? Sure. Am I trying to figure out how do I balance tuning and the other things I do with that? That's
and
also
family
and family.
And
so
life.
I will take the right students.
That's great. Okay, cool.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, what more succinctly, like, what's important for people to know. It's like, for the people who are like, it's been years since I've tuned my piano. I mean, just give me a call. I'll tell you, what I think. You can have me come out. I'll look at your piano. But generally the progression is, it's been years. You call a tuner, they come by, they tune your piano. It needs a lot of work. You don't necessarily need to do that. I would say the level that you're playing, get that to match the level of service that you're paying for. And you can, I didn't answer this part. If you said, I want to get back on schedule, let's get it tuned twice a year. I'm like, great. If you get a 2-hour service block the first time, that might not be enough time for the first. We can still move you forward. You know, a
Not
half
time
day.
to get everything.
Yeah, like a half day in that case, if it's been 3-5 years since you've done it, since you've had your piano tuned, is a better route to go. And then after that, go back down to a 2-hour service appointment. And then after you have your piano 2 sessions, I'm going to probably spend an hour and a half tuning your piano and spend the rest of the time doing other little pieces to make it better.
Cool.
And so my goal is to basically budget a little bit of time for other little services that can go in there. Like if in the case of, if you have your car oils changed, engine's not leaking, great, your tires look really worn. Let's address the tires now. Okay, we're going to change one tire out. And it's not ideal to change one tire out at a time, but if that's what you can do, then it's better than not doing it.
Yeah.
Does that make enough sense?
Makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if people wanted to, if maybe a family is looking for a piano, do they just call your number? They just email you on the website, or?
Yeah, no, you can call me. And, like I said, like it's kind of limited right now. I have 6 pianos, 4 of which the goal is to recondition.
2 of them are yours. You're going to keep.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to really keep them. I'm on the fence. To the right person, I'm sure I would sell those too. But the problem is when you get a piano and you're like, it's like you get a pet. You're like, okay, I kind of like this aspect of this. But like the one behind you, I'm like, it's actually a 1989 piano.
Oh, really?
A Yamaha, and I was born in '89, so I'm like, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
But or this
That's
one's
sharp.
like, 1926, and my grandparents, born in the 20s, and I'm like, okay, well,
Yeah.
it's kind of fun, but that's the problem too.
Yeah, you only have room for so many pianos.
No, the goal is to use them to help me along as a technician.
Well, and I love the idea of flip. I mean, people flip with expertise. People flip cars. People flip houses. But this is like a niche expertise that.
And I'm not in a rush, and I think that's the big thing. It's like in the sales thing, it's like I'm not in a rush. If it's not the right fit, then like you can ask questions about it. But so I have connections with a couple other people in town that for either new pianos or a couple piano dealers in town. If that's what you're looking for, that I can direct you towards.
Cool.
But you. I don't know if you want.
I got mine.
You got
I got
yours
my mom's, the one she learned on. Okay, I want to hear just a little bit, if you can, about your relationship with James Geiger.
Yeah, so I moved to Waco in 2010, and I knew I wanted to get into the piano tuning thing. And so I was looking for someone who would be a mentor. And I first heard of someone named Charlie Fry. He's still tuning in the area, but then he told me, he's like, well, I'm not really teaching now. Let me get you connected to James Geiger, who, 2010, that's 15 years ago. So I guess he's 90. So what if he'd been, I guess 75 or something like that?
Yeah.
Wow, I'll have to tell him. I knew him when he was 75.
Way back when you were
Way back
spry
when.
75.
But he told me he's very proud of this recently. 2-3 weeks ago, maybe a little bit more, he became a great-great-grandfather.
No way.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
It's wild that he's a great-great-grandfather and still moving pianos. That's what's wild.
Yeah, but so him and his wife Susie, they are I don't know how you would say. I mean, they're wonderful and they have personality.
Okay.
But so one of the things, and this is an act they rehearsed, I'm sure, but I go over there, and usually for the piano tuning lessons, he's like, Josh, let's go to Shipley's Donuts and then we talk business.
It's
over
like a Mr. Miyagi thing.
I guess so.
Wax on.
It's like, little jokes here and there, and then he starts to say things like, one day you're gonna get married, like the little wisdom here and so forth. And Susie pops in, and they start arguing, and then they have their little act where like she's saying this and he does this, and they're both going. I'm like, what's going on here? And then they both end on, and she or he drives me crazy.
Oh, they do it together.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Like
So
a little
it's
skit.
It is.
And I'm like, what's going on here? Are you guys fighting, or is this a skit? But to give you a taste of their personality, Jim has, I don't remember exact the age he started his career in piano technology, but early 20s. So and he studied at Purdue University, which
Oh wow.
I don't remember where that is. I want to say Cincinnati,
I'm forgetting too. I know it's
Ohio area, but I could be totally wrong on that. Yeah, so I have taken tuning lessons and different things from him over the years, and currently getting ready to take more lessons specifically in regulation, the piano, which is adjusting all of the touch and the tone. Well, primarily the touch and making sure everything's in spec. But
that's kind of the next level of piano tuning. Yeah. This isn't the $400 range. This is the
this is the beyond that. When
Gotcha.
like if you were to get a full piano regulated, that could be a process that takes a technician, 4 full days. Some
Does Baylor do that? Who does? Because you do a lot of Baylor pianists too, don't you?
Well, I'll do some of the practice rooms at Baylor, and those are just like the tuning for those. And then I'll, if I notice something that's out, if it's easily done, I'll do that. But they have I think 25 pianos, so I've done those for the last two semesters or something like that.
25 practice room pianos.
Yeah, 25.
That's a lot of pianos.
It is a lot of pianos. And
how long does that take you?
Well, the first time around, it's like, you get a new contract. You're like, oh, got to do a good job.
Yeah.
Of course, I always want to do a good job, but
Yeah.
when you get on the stage, you're like, I'm on stage, feeling, if you will. So I was going extra slow for some reason, and
Trying to just get it perfect.
just to get it perfect at that point in time, and I ended up spending 2 or 3 hours on some of those pianos, and I was like, I can't do this because we have a 2-week time frame to get them done in. Now, I'm able to do those in an hour and a half issues per piano. So
Okay.
but the thing, I've done like 2 and 3 pianos a day, before that, but not like consecutive days. And they're in the very small practice rooms. So after a couple of days, Darren and Jonathan, the techs at Baylor, they're like, "Are you wearing earplugs?" And I'm like, "No, I'm tuning a piano. I thought I need to use my ear." They're like, "Well, we get it." And the practice rooms, just because it's such a small room, they're like, "You should be wearing at least, kind of half cock the earplugs in your ears just for your sanity." And I'm like, okay, and that saved my life.
Interesting.
Yeah, an interesting thing.
Just because it was so loud?
Yeah, no, I mean, with a piano, like if you get a decibel reader out, like you'll get anything from 90 to 110 decibels that you can get out of a piano, like at its peak loudness. And I'm sure, some pianos even get a little bit louder than that, but that sounds like a good tagline. Is your piano as loud as a rocket?
Is that how loud rockets are?
Or is it 120 decibels for
Gosh,
rockets
I
or
don't
something
know.
like that? I don't know. They're probably louder than that. But yeah, no, Mr. Geiger, he's great. He's been in the Waco area, I want to say since 2005 or 2005, 2008, somewhere around then. Yeah. So over the last 15 years, gotten to know him and moved quite a few pianos with him. And I told myself I'm not going to go full time into piano moving, because we moved one grand piano. Maybe it was a little like a 5'4", like upstairs. And the stairways kind of, they had that, they go up and then it goes around a U-turn. But there was also the ceiling at that 45 degree, and there was a banister. So usually what you do is you just slide a piano up the stairs and you're not lifting it. But in this case, the whole piano had to be lifted completely off the ground, and not just like pivoted, but like this really weird kind of float skid around the corner. And still with all of that, like we had to punch like a little 2-3 inch something in the ceiling, just because there wasn't any room.
That sounds like a nightmare.
And then I asked James, I'm like, so can you rate this piano move out of your entire career? Like, what is this, a 1 to 10? And he's, huffing and puffing a little bit. And then he's like, oh, this is a 10. And then I'm like, all right, I'm out. I don't know
Tap
why.
it out.
Like, I don't think I want to do this upstairs. And I have done a handful and one small piano upstairs, but it's not my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
I've moved definitely all these pianos in here, but still, it's like,
You moved my piano.
I guess I did.
Yeah.
And then every time I look back at moving the pianos, I'm like, do I want to do this? No, I don't.
It seems really dangerous.
Yeah, it is. Like, because like a piano like this is probably, I don't know exactly. Mason and Hamlins are heavier. but 600-700 pounds, but for your small grands, 500-700 pounds. And then, you get up into longer pianos. I mean, I think the heaviest pianos are maybe 1,100-1,200 pounds.
Okay.
But those are like your 9-foot pianos and so forth. And at that point you get 4 or 5 guys and a lot of smarts too.
Yeah. Spatially kind of oriented.
Right.
Cool.
But, there's something about Mr. Geiger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've never met him. I've heard a lot about him from you, but he sounds like just a great guy.
We'll just have to get you over there sometime. How about that? You'd enjoy that.
Meet Mr. Miyagi.
At Shipley's, how about that?
Well, shoot, man. Well, Joshua, thank you so much for doing this, man.
For sure.
I really appreciate it. Anything else you wanted to share?
Oh, you should get back into playing your piano. It's good for your brain health,
It's good for your soul.
It's good for your soul.
Brain. It's good for your heart.
And in the day where we have things like AI and media and all these different things, like, and even just, in the wake of, the war stuff that's going on in the Middle East, it's I'm thinking of to some of the movies I've seen. It's like, in good times and in bad times, people turn to music, and the question is why, that's, I think that we should all, be thinking about, whether it's a voice, for me, I'm like, it's like, I'm a believer. I think, I want to be praising Jesus. And I don't have a whole lot more to say about that, but but it's like, but nonetheless, if someone's religious or not, there's still something beautiful about.
It's a doorway into something else.
About music. If that's just for your own self-care, if that's for you to be able to serve other people, I think, we grow up and we're often taught to, like, do music, do performance. Like, this is your career. But one of the things for me, I think, in even submitting to becoming a piano tuner, because it wasn't my first choice to have a career in piano tuning, even though I had the idea in high school, it's a way that I can serve my family. It's a way that I can serve other people in bettering their musical life, or bettering their life with that. But so,
come on,
get your piano tuned. I got 6 pianos if you need one.
All right, Waco Pianos.
There we go.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll end it right there.
Sounds good. Get my little lasso right here.
How'd that feel to you?
I mean, I'm a little bit all over the place, but you know what? I think there's a lot of little clips in there, and I think that, what I've learned is, I'm just I just want to speak more.
Yeah.